What's a hobby someone can have that is an immediate red flag? Making see-through Lego men with mouse organs inside. Well, reading the comments, I'm feeling better about my Warhammer collection. Kids' beauty pageants. My old roommate used to go out driving on rainy days specifically to splash pedestrians. That seems pretty red flaggy to me. There was a post of a guy that was angry at his mother because her hobby was to find random people on the net, find everything about them, and message them about it. Guy who spends hours each week on Instagram commenting, liking, and DMing random models they have never met. Speed sewing Moroccan flags. Cutting the eyes out at pictures of women in magazines. As a Magic the Gathering player, Magic the Gathering. Running an MLM or being admin director of a local area Facebook group. I have dated 2 horse girls in my life, and both ended up very similar. Crushing Monster energy drinks and punching drywall. Family vlogging. Family vlogging completely violates children's privacy. Using kids to shore up your own online presence is not okay. Pageantry. I'm just gonna lurk and see if people think my hobbies are red flags. Is lurking a hobby? Am I a red flag? Dogfighting. Someone reading a ton of philosophy can easily be a very good sign, or a massive red flag depending on what specifically they're reading so much of. Just here to see how people really feel about my hobbies. Shrines to people. When I first met my now late significant other, my son wanted to be sure he wasn't a killer and protect me. We were literally neighbors, so one day we walked to his house and my son said, "Let me see that you don't have pictures of my mom with X's on them." He thought my son meant pictures of his exes. Nope, my kid just wanted to be sure there was no shrine to me somewhere with my face crossed out by Sharpie markers. I saw a post yesterday here about a guy that uses real mouse hearts and testicles and places them in a clear resin cast Lego man. I don't know what that is, but red flag. If a person is so preoccupied with their social media that this person hasn't had time to actually live and communicate in the moment, it's fine if you can communicate about it and make arrangements, but I am not dating a person in a 3-way relationship with Zuckerberg. I would be totally fine with a person that has to have a heavy social media presence for work, but I would want to be able to set boundaries that work for both of us on it. Collecting blood slides. My friend had one next to his table next to his AC unit. When I asked him about, he gave me this weird smile and claimed it was for work. I never had beers with him since. I'm pretty wary of anyone that push other people to turn their hobby into a money-making hustle. Empty alcohol bottle collecting. If their identity is centered around Disney, sorry, I said it. On a first date, casually talking. And, well, I guess there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? 4. What? There's 4 ways to skin a cat. Adopting too many kids or animals, especially when you can't afford them. Arguing with strangers on the internet, not like usual discussions or anything, just taunting people because you're bored. Anything that they can't really afford. Making $50K but collecting Rolex watches? Red flag. Making $40K but always buying haute couture fashion items? Red flag. Making any amount of money and into Warhammer? Red flag. Forcing their children into pageants, cheerleading, gymnastics? Shit tons of crazies treat this shit like it's their hobby, and it's a massive red flag. Gambling. I'm just really into Hitler. What about those sexual anime figurines? I get liking anime, but when your room is full of jailbait anime girls in bathing suits or lewd poses, there's something not so chill going on there. The spiritual nonsense, like the really outlandish stuff, like sunning your butthole. Sorry, hard pass. Doll collectors. I'm not gonna enter a house full of dolls. Constant selfie posting. Influencing. Back in 1990 we had them. They were called commercials, then infomercials, then the shit became ridiculous. Posting everything, every single thing on social media. Reddit mod. When their only hobby seems to be consuming and repeating hyper-partisan media talking points. Not having a hobby at all is probably up there. Having a hobby or something productive or engaging to do in your spare time is pretty important to living a healthy life. If you've met a person with no hobbies, you'll know exactly what I mean. They tend to shit talk when they're bored, can't fully contribute to many types of conversations, and can be boring to talk to because they don't have a whole heck of a lot to talk about. I have a terrible habit of dropping hobbies I pick up, so I go through these motions a lot whenever I don't keep myself busy outside of work. Consuming media can be a great conversation starter, but it's harder to build deeper connections with other people if you don't have any passions of your own to share or relate to. It isn't necessarily a red flag, but it is notable when someone doesn't have a hobby. Collecting vintage preserved human anatomical specimens. I actually worked with someone who did that. Boy, did I wish I'd never accepted the invite to come over and meet him and his boyfriend's babies. Weed, alcohol, substance as a personality trait. My brother dated a woman who collected animal bones and human teeth, but didn't like animals alive. Cringe. Ingesting a bunch of alpha male content, watching gore or sending gore vids to their friends, making fake animal rescue videos, abusing animals, hurting and making fun of homeless people for content, collecting Nazi memorabilia. I'm not sure if this counts as a hobby per se, but I can't stand people who get really into astrology. Like, won't date somebody because Leo and Aquarius signs conflict or whatever. Or judges a person based on their star sign. They're insinuating that there are only 12 different kinds of people and personalities based on when they were born within the year. It doesn't make sense. At least with crystals, they make for a nice decoration. League of Legends. Apparently, pigeon kicking is a thing. Disgusting. Collecting body parts. NFTs, crypto, hyper-obsession with stocks, astrology, crystals, or witchcraft. Nothing. As in not having a hobby. Making TikTok videos. Met an Uber driver that told me he did taxidermy for fun. Well, not really taxidermy, I just kind of pickle animals' organs and you wouldn't believe the market for it. I've made $35 this month alone. Never been so creeped out in my life. Reddit. A select group of people round by me also have formed a Cats Watch group. They all own pet scanners, and as soon as anyone dares to say they've noticed a cat they've not seen before, or sadly a deceased one, they're running around to scan it for a chip, and if a live cat, foster it until their owners can be found. Half the time it's just a poor unsuspecting kitty who's dared to roam past their driveway, as outdoor going cats do, and is snatched up and scanned. They often find the owners live a few doors down. I have never seen so many grown women fight over who's going to go and scan the corpse of a ran-over cat. It's like they feed on the grief of sad pet owners. Public masturbation is kind of a turnoff for me. Trophy hunting. Dallas Cowboy fans. Torturing animals. Spending tons of time on your phone looking people up just to talk shit or find dirt on them so you can re-justify your own self-worth or value. Underwater basket weaving. Just do it normal. Hate these people. Dwarf tossing. Living through their kids in sports and school. Serial killer collections. Kinda sad how often taxidermy comes up on this thread. It's definitely not everyone's cup of tea, but most of them don't seem like psychopaths. Now, thrash streaming, on the other hand, gun enthusiasts who are a little too enthusiastic about the potential damage a round can do to flesh. Tennis. Love means nothing to them. Well, on its own, chilling at home and watching TV isn't a bad thing, but if that's all they want to do, then that's a red flag. Horses. Horse girls are borderline psychopaths, and male jockeys are villainous. As a person who plays video games at least once a day, a red flag is when gaming is the only hobby a person can come up with when pressed. It's not necessarily a huge red flag, but the person definitely is less interesting as a person if literally their only hobby is gaming. Given the number of people saying taxidermy here, true crime worshipping. My ex would say World of Warcraft. Obsessing over celebrity gossip, CrossFit, HOA president, trophy hunting. And I fully support ethical hunting for sustenance and food sourcing, and have done my own share of hunting. But someone who just trophy hunts exotic animals for sport makes me instantly believe they just enjoy killing things and should be avoided at all costs. Smoking weed. Nothing against people who smoke weed, but naming that as your hobby sounds incredibly boring. Protesting funerals of fallen soldiers. OnlyFans. When TikTok is someone's hobby, you already know what you're getting yourself into. Disney people. They're a little creepy. None. Don't judge people by what they enjoy. Arguing on Reddit. Equestrians. Speaking as an equestrian, we're either fucking insane or we're chill. No in between. Furries. Someone else mentioned a shrine of sorts, the stalkerish sort. It made me remember that I will never build a shrine to alcohol. Let me explain. My dad enjoyed his drink. Over the years, he built a man cave in the basement complete with a pretty nice bar. Solid wood bar top, etc. He spent more and more time down there as the years wore on. I don't need to tell folks here how that played out. My memories of him towards the end included him being drunk at best, incoherent and irrational at worst. I blame his booze abuse for taking him so young. 55. I've got some bottles stashed in a kitchen cabinet at floor level. I don't open it often. I've got a converted wine fridge with some beer in it. I pick up a 6-pack around once a month. Taxidermy. I feel confident I'm not going to have to explain why. I think I have an ingrained stereotype of being put off anyone too into anime and manga, just the whole incel vibe. Bonus points if they have posters, figurines, or any type of bedding of anime girls. Funny anecdote, my red flag was my love for growing houseplants and orchard. For that person, that was, quoting, "It is like you are a middle-aged woman." Me being glad aquariums, reptiles, and plants aren't listed anywhere. Addicted to prostitutes. I'm likely to get downvoted to oblivion for this one, but coming from someone who isn't a native US citizen, I think hoarding of guns and ammunition as a hobby is a bit of a red flag. I can't define exactly at which point it goes from being a normal firearms enthusiast or hunter to a hoarder. I think having hundreds of guns and thousands of rounds of ammunition is a bit much. Pranks that don't involve consent. Recreational drug use and or binge drinking. Being a furry. Watching hentai or anything gross related to that. Manually masturbating animals for artificial insemination or knowing where that reference came from. Pun intended, and clearly joking about the latter. Any hobby related to anime? Red flag. Kidnapping. Ultra running. Crypto. Men into My Little Pony. When someone's entire personality is, I listen to Joe Rogan in my spare time. Being a clown. Collecting communist flags, usually? I mean, it's not 100% a red flag, you know? But it's mostly red. Armchair psychology. People who consume mental health media and they diagnose everyone with something that usually trends at the moment. It's super toxic, irresponsible, it can stigmatize people in relationships. Roof-topping. Climbing on skyscrapers, cranes, etc., completely unsecured. Anyone heavily into nerd culture. I'm talking they're overly invested in video games, anime, Star Wars, Marvel, etc. I'm talking the guy and girls with a huge wall of Funko Pops. The ones who have to have every new video game release. The person who didn't really grow up and is stuck in this massive escapism loop where they are constantly rejecting this world. If you enjoy those things, fine, I enjoy it too. Like, I play video games, watch films, etc. I don't constantly need it though. I've seen people just talk and basically act like they live in these things and get severely depressed when a series or game ends. I'm talking every single thing. God of War ending? He calls me crying because it's over. Attack on Titan ended? He's crying because he'll miss his friends. A person whose only definition of having fun is partying and heavy drinking or end up wasted every time it's out. Emotional issues trying to be covered up. Anyone super into celebrity gossip blogs and celebrity anything. Anyone who's a super fan of a famous person. Watching too much porn. A fetish for exercise. I don't mean going out on the daily run or workout. I'm talking devoting hours to it a day and obsesses over the results in the mirror. There's a difference between taking care of yourself and outright narcissism. Bible study. Being a brony. Grown men obsessed with My Little Pony. I knew this guy that claims he plays Quidditch. I thought he was kidding, but he really does run around with a broom and yell about muggles and Yoda and stuff. Hashtag crocheting Confederate flags. Constantly trying to evangelize others. Necromancy. Someone who enjoys quoting the Bible. Keeping birds in cages. Killing animals and posting pics of it. Any MLM trends. Back in the day, my mom always avoided the ladies who invited her to Mary Kay or Pampered Chef parties. Don't make your friends buy your shit. Red flag collecting. Trophy hunting. Conspiracy theories. Going to nightclubs all the time. These people were usually schizoid gremlins, best left in the dark corners of the club, turned on Ket. Moderating Reddit. Collecting sex dolls. Cutting up roadkill. Magic the Gathering. I've not often had great encounters with those kinds of people. Their priorities are usually fucked up, their social skills are lacking, they're often in the throes of addiction, and they can be downright mean and belligerent. Likely, there's a whole menagerie of toxic activities and communities in which they partake, and games like this are usually just the visible portion of the iceberg. Gotta include the obligatory not everyone nod, but hackles are rightly raised until otherwise proven. Some people do just enjoy these kind of things, and that's perfectly okay, of course. Bit of a hot take, but video games in certain contexts. If someone spends tons of hours on video games, they just like video games and are likely decent people. If someone gets absolutely fired up over them, I'm talking absolutely furious over losing a match or even just dying once, gloating about broken controllers, walls, or TV screens, red fucking flag. I get the appeal of getting hyped and emotionally invested, but there is a healthy limit. Or, TLDR, Xbox Live players. A sudden interest in learning how to make yellow cake. Artistic torture. Weekly murder night with the gals. Collecting eyeballs. Vexillology. Also white flags and blue flags and all sorts of flags, really. Sex with cats. Asking people about a hobby someone can have that is an immediate red flag. Dogfighting. Poaching. Making their political party their personality. Reddit. The dudes in their 30s and up who are into My Little Pony excessively. Like, to each their own, but... Writing original songs based on the Bible. I once met a guy who made a collection of bullets and knives, etc. that were used to kill people. Kinda creepy, I guess. Did I mention they sometimes had dried blood on them? Reddit modding! 95% of the people in this thread can't discern the difference between hobby and activity. I would say it's more of a red flag if someone doesn't have a hobby. Like, what the fuck do you do with yourself? People who like Friends over Seinfeld, CrossFit, drinking. Now, I'm not saying drinking is a red flag, but if your idea of a nice evening is to grab a beer and hit the couch, you're not interesting. If your after-work activities are to gather your friends and reach a bar, you're not interesting. If your weekends consist of gathering your friends and drinking together at home, you're not interesting. Find something else to do. Astrology. Bronies, just the thought is horrifying. Taxidermy. I'm going to say anime figurine collecting, especially the sexy ones. Spooky. Bible study. Church. Being Christian or somehow religious or spiritual. People, psychopathic behavior is not a hobby. Tarot card reading. Funko Pop collections. I honestly cannot imagine a more ridiculous way to waste money. They all look the exact same. No hobbies. If she has no life, you become her life. Never trust a man who keeps pigs. Lobotomy. Skin collector. People who hate others for their political opinions. Animal breeding, especially snakes and spiders. But really, any animal you only keep to breed to sell as pets. You actually run a farm? That's a job, not a hobby. Keeping a tarantula as a pet. Also, those people who attend porn conventions and wait in line to meet the porn stars. Politics. Anime. Hunting people for sport. Going to car shows. Gambling. I've seen that addiction ruin lives. Guns. No thanks. Mixed martial arts. You've got two men in a cage fighting in their underwear over a belt and a purse. It's weird, man. I should know. Been doing it for about 13 years now. Guns and hunting. I am not against either hobby inherently, and not all hobby shooters are this way, but based on my experiences, the people who enjoy shooting or hunting regularly enough to own guns or know about the specs of individual pistols and rifles tend to be more politically and socially conservative. If you want to find racist or bigoted people, you'll have the most luck by casting your net over a shooting club than pretty much any other hobby. Into dog or cockfighting. Shoe collecting. Drawing only nudity that isn't tasteful and strictly pornographic. Making furniture out of human bodies. Dissecting small animals at home on the dining table. Taxidermy. Moderating a subreddit. Dog fighting. Collecting fly wings in a jar. Those who have none at all. Arson. Dissecting roadkill. Being a Republican. Always on their phone. Would spending hours on gambling apps be considered a hobby? Vexillology. Reddit mod. Civil War reenactments with only male family members as many times a year as they are held, and only playing the Confederates. Used to know a guy who did this. He was a big ol' rapist. Literally 90% of these aren't even hobbies! My initial reaction on reading the question was this was going to be a sparse one. If you don't like someone's hobbies, you're just not compatible. What kind of hobby can be a red flag? After reading the top responses, I see. If your hobby is hurting, stalking, abusing, manipulating, obsessing, or scamming people, or myriad other criminal/criminally not criminal behaviors towards other people that hurt, confuse, or steal from them, then okay, yeah, that's a valid red flag. Never really thought of those things as hobbies, I guess. Also, after reading the comments, I found one I agree with. Horse girls. Never met a sane one. Hunting. Praying. Kidnapping children, getting drunk alone, being super into Norse or Celtic mythology stuff. 9 times out of 10 it's fine, but there's a small chance they think they're the Northmen and have weird conservative fringe stuff going on. I'd say look for context clues here. Civil War reenactments, writing prisoners through the prison pen pal program, arguing with strangers on Reddit, trading crypto, taxidermy, collecting flags, preferably red, digging holes big enough for bodies, road biking, underwater basket weaving, semaphore, fingernail collecting, setting the flag of Israel on fire, someone whose hobby is invading countries, like no, red flag, big red flag. Puppetry. How do we feel about preserving and collecting insects? Murders and executions. Having a paraphilia called somnophilia. LARPing can get pretty incelish pretty quickly, not to tar everyone who likes it with the same brush. Juggling goldfish. Hunting. Reddit. Murder. Killing people. Collecting teeth. Semaphore. Massively into following Sports League, needing to watch every game, know all about every player, and has to at least see the highlights of the other teams. Sewing dresses out of human flesh, not usually one to hobby shame, but that one just doesn't quite sit well with me. Taxidermy? Taxidermy. Bowling competitively. Roadkill taxidermy. Murder. I'm not saying basement train people are serial killers because I think the basement train hobby takes up too much of their time to actually go out and kill. Dating alcoholics. Just here to see if anyone lists my hobby. So far, so good. Dedicating their time to simping for and spending money on Twitch girls that won't give them a second thought. CrossFit.